Steve Rao, the host of Pod and Roku TV's World Edition. And on this show, we talk about global affairs, innovation, an increasingly turbulent world politically, economically. And I hope if you're wherever you are in the world, if you're having a good summer. I today wanted to just begin my remarks by telling you that this week we'll be talking about Supreme Court decisions, the ever increasing importance of our Supreme Court and its impact on policies in the United States of America, whether it's Roe v. Wade, abortion, affirmative action, different issues regarding controlling of legislative drawing of congressional maps. All of these are issues that have been decided by the courts, and we're going to be talking about that this week. We had the shootings in Baltimore last week. We've got Wimbledon going on, and I'm trying to see if there's any other breaking news going on. King Charles was coronated in Scotland, and we did have a very interesting visit to Washington, where I was able to attend the ceremonies of Prime Minister Narendra Modi from India, who visited the White House. This was an amazing opportunity for me to listen to the Prime Minister's vision of the U.S.-India partnership. John Chambers closed out the evening at the Kennedy Center on Friday for a closing remarks on We the People, which was a celebration of the U.S.-India partnership. Interestingly enough, Chambers predicted that India would be the world's number one economy, and that there's going to be tremendous opportunities for trade, investment, defense, small businesses, and a startup ecosystem in India that's exploding with 100,000 startups. 30 of them are already billion-dollar companies. A lot of opportunities to collaborate in AI, particularly in the areas of defense, as we deal with China as a rival. This is balanced by some of the concerns that have been brought up to show of an authoritarian India, although Prime Minister Modi denied that and said that there's still an inclusive society. The evidence is pointing in much the other direction, that there are concerns about India's support of Russia or silence of Russia and Ukraine, and also the treatment of religious minorities and women in India. So that's something this summer we'll be talking about as we get close to Indian Independence Day in August, where we always have special guests. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm having let me just give me 1 second, Mark. I want to just see one thing. I'm going to just see if I missed out any other breaking news before I bring in our guests. Oh yeah, and how could I forget? The breaking news of the day: cocaine found in the White House. And President Biden was at Camp David when he found out. They're trying to track what happened. So that is an important issue we definitely want to talk about. I knew I forgot one thing. So sorry for that, folks. We're going to begin. I'm here for about 5-10 minutes today, but back tomorrow for the whole show. We're going to go ahead and get started. Mark, those are the issues to talk about today.
You forgot a very important issue, because apparently we set a record, and I'm going to bring in Lee Newton Rhodes as well. But apparently, since we've been keeping records, this is the hottest it's ever been. I know I went out yesterday and it was hotter on the 4th of July, but on the day before the 4th of July, we set a record. They said that it was one of the hottest days ever. The world registered its hottest day ever on July 3rd. So, like I said, they've been keeping records now for a while, and apparently that was the hottest day that the earth has ever had. So we're not just talking about the U.S., we're talking about all over the world, that there were some heat going on. And speaking of heat, apparently the sharks are not too thrilled at us. I know we were talking I think it was yesterday, about the orcas, which is the whales, but apparently there have been, and maybe Lee has some thoughts about that, multiple shark attacks reported off the New York shores, and 50 sharks have been spotted at one beach. So maybe they're trying to get out of they're in the water, so maybe they want to get into the sunbathing or whatever the sharks might want to do and everything. But what are they saying about the sharks there in New York? Apparently that is something that I also...
Yeah, good morning. It's happened to a number of people. I think 3 or 4 different people at different locations have been bitten, but no one's been fatal or whatever. But it's never pleasant being bit by a shark, regardless how mild it may be.
Right.
Steve, you brought up the case about cocaine being found in the White House. How does cocaine get into a White House? Isn't everybody screened there in terms of weapons, in terms of drugs with sniffing dogs? How does stuff get in there?
I don't understand it, and so we don't know whether it was. There are a number of things that when I heard the news this morning, could it be an employee that has an addiction problem? We know the president's son, Hunter Biden, has been a recovering drug addict, and has been going through that. Whether it was, I don't know. I really don't understand.
Steve, this is another question, and this is something that comes out of even the Supreme Court. How do these leaks get out? How does this information get out, whether it's a Supreme Court decision or police activities, things like that? How does this get from the people on the scene to the public? Isn't there something that people should just keep their mouths shut? That's not. Maybe we're entitled to it with FOIA requests, what have you. But so quickly, this type of information just gets out to the public?
But Lee, is this something new?
No, it's not something new.
I mean, Deep Throat deal with a lot of stuff about Watergate.
No, I understand that. Go on.
Part of the problem is I think that governments always tend to be more open when things happen because they don't want there to be any potential cover-up, right? So let's say it was found out that something happened and they said, well, there was cocaine in the White House and no one in the White House said anything. So by coming out, it was probably the White House that said this cocaine was found in the White House. Now we're going to find out. So they probably are the ones. It's kind of this notion of, I understand being silent about it, but then, if somebody finds out, then you're in trouble. So
I get that, but time after time we hear of, I think there are illegal leaks from grand juries, from investigations and stuff like that. Certain things we're entitled to. Certain things are public when they happen. Citizens on the scene are filming it. I get all that, but the illegal leaks that no one ever seems to be held accountable for. Anonymous sources, like, what's your source? Where'd this come from? Someone like, for example, whether you like it or not, released Trump's tax returns. That stuff, that shouldn't happen, whether you like Trump or not.
I hear you, but I mean, there's that notion of damage control. And speaking of damage control, I've got two ideas of damage control that I'd love to hear folks' thoughts about it, and they do involve world issues. But definitely, we know that France has been having some riots and some protests and all of that, and definitely that is going on. And of course, France is a major tourism destination, no matter what some folks that are associated with the station here at Pod TV may think about France, because I know we've got a couple of folks that are not big France fans and all in that line, but they definitely still a tourism spot. And one of the things that they are telling tourists and foreign investors is don't be put off by the riots. And I also saw something like that about Crimea. Crimea is right near Ukraine and Russia and everything, and apparently it's a coastal town. So they were trying to draw people into Crimea to enjoy the water and enjoy the beach and all of that. Lee, I don't know about you, but I'm not really going to enjoy a beach if there's the possibility of bombs dropping on me and everything. But that's just
I get that. But the riots that you're talking about, is that by local citizens or is it by recent immigrants who have not been assimilated yet into the culture of the countries? Like, why are they rioting and who's doing the rioting?
Well, I mean, my understanding is because of some of the policies that were there, and it was the policies that Macron put in place. It was a lot of the local folks that were doing the rioting, just like they're being rioting here as well.
Before that, it was the minimum wage, actually the car made. Yeah, they're just going through a lot of disruption over there. I was thinking about France. I went there 3 years ago. But anyway, a couple more issues before I run off. We got to do today, but. So we'll talk about India when I come back tomorrow. I think it was a very interesting trip. My fourth trip to the White House. I must admit, I'm getting really used to going inside there. It was amazing being there. I was about 10 feet away from the president when he introduced the prime minister. I was on the floor of the U.S. Congress when he addressed the Congress, and I was in the front row when he did the closing reception, hosted by John Chambers, who actually said he'd be willing to come on our podcast and other podcasts to talk about AI. He ran Cisco Systems, so we're really excited about that. And we'll talk about the court this week, and I'll just throw this out there before I head off for the day. I think the Supreme Court has been just a a game changer in our democracy. When you look at the decisions that have happened last year, and we're going to go back and review some of these decisions and look at some of those last decisions in January and June of this year. And then what are the decisions coming before the new session of the court when they go back into the session? But should one area of government have that much power? Lifetime appointments, and it is politics, right? And the final thing I'll say is that the Democrats had an opportunity with Ruth Bader Ginsburg to actually have her retire and step down, and they could have appointed someone else. But devil's advocates tell me, as Republicans play such hardball, that they wouldn't have cooperated and they wouldn't have allowed the president to appoint someone in her place. So there would have been a vacant seat, right? But then again, the Democrats confirmed these conservative justices, but the votes were there to do that. So, I think that's going to be something moving forward. I really believe that we need to take a look at our high court and look at whether we need to have some reforms, because it's crazy. But I hope you all had a good 4th of July, and I'll be back in a few days. I'll be back tomorrow, but thank you all so much. And Mark, I'm going to hand it off to you.
Okay, glad to be here.
Steve, take care.
Over the reins. I saw that Nick had popped in as well, so hopefully he'll come in because he's actually traveled to Europe a number of times and all along those lines, so he might come on and share some of his thoughts about that. Because one of the other articles that I saw was that Europe is seeing a surge in U.S. summer tourists after the pandemic, and definitely the questions that are being raised is whether the aviation there is ready for the flood of tourists that are coming to Europe. And like I said, some of the places they are going are literally hotspots, not just in terms of weather, but also in terms of conflicts, whether that's France, whether that's Crimea, whether that's a number of other places. But apparently Americans are visiting parts of Europe in record numbers right now. So it'll be interesting to see whether that trend continues and how that trend continues all along those lines. I also saw an article where France, and I do know that there were a lot of expatriates that had moved to France back in the day, including some during the civil rights era, like Baldwin and others, and it has always seen itself as blind to race. But now there are some folks that are asking whether they have a issue with racism in their police force as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, since the gentleman that was killed was from Algeria. I heard some reports that there was a jihad being declared, but it looks like they were generations removed from the Middle East and everything, because I know the grandmother had actually called for a peaceful demonstration and all along those lines, and was definitely trying to encourage people not to go out in any sort of violence in that sense. So, and there are other places where police have had run-ins, including some of the African nations. So I know we've had some in the past on shows, and I'll try to see if I can find some folks that are France tied to see about what's going on in that part of the world and everything in that sense. Speaking of Africa, it looks like Senegal's Macky Sall is bowing to pressure from Azonko supporters over a third term. So it looks like that is his decision to step aside, and we'll see who else comes in and decides to run that particular country, since he said he won't be seeking a third term. Ironically, after protests there too. So a lot of times all over the world, there are protests that lead to these people's decisions and all in that space. And China is reeling apparently from floods and a bruising heat wave. So they're having a bruising heat wave as well. So definitely that's going on. And Steve earlier mentioned Modi. And apparently Modi is in the news again because there is a virtual summit that is going on, and it is being chaired by Indian Prime Minister Modi, as both Putin, Xi, and Sharif are attending virtually. So it is a summit that is going on, and actually Putin says that Russia is united as never before during the Shanghai Cooperation Organization meeting that was going on in that part of the world. So definitely that's some of the things that I was seeing in the news that folks may be interested in talking about, and all in that space. Hey, Lee, you may not know this. I was hoping that Toby was going to be here, but there was a amazing, I'm gonna bring in Nick as well, but there was an amazing sports story that actually involved us here in Durham and all in that area. But there was the fireworks, and I got to see some of them from afar. I was not near the ballpark and everything. But one of the things that happened was there was a game that was a dramatic game because the Bulls were down 5-0 and managed to come back in the ninth inning and win 6-5. So that made the celebration.
Mark, you know the famous expression, it's not over until a fat lady sings.
Exactly.
Never give up.
Crazy. It was 5-0. They walked in, they run, made it 5-1, and then they rallied. And next thing I know, it was 6-5 because I was following it online and everything. And I'm going I know that there were probably a number of folks, there's that old famous saying of folks that leave the game early thinking that it's over. There were probably some folks that were sticking around because they wanted to see the fireworks, and there were probably some people that were frustrated that the game was actually having a rally cry, but they probably wanted to see the fireworks early than they actually saw them. So there might have been some folks there that were wanting the game to be over, but they definitely wanted the game to end the way it did, which is with the team winning and all in that space. But Nick, quick question for you. I know that you're here and all in that space, and I was talking about Europe and Europe travel. Is Europe ready for travel by its aviation? Because that's one of the things that I was seeing. I was seeing that some other places like France, Crimea, a number of other places are saying, come on in the U.S., the pandemic's over, come on and visit us. Are the planes and everything, the trains, are they ready for the influx of Americans and other people coming in to their part of the world?
Ready as they're ever going to be. But one thing is correct, that a lot of these sites today are unbelievably crowded. I had my Barcelona shirt on, right? Just coming back from Barcelona, they have the Picasso Museum, bumper to bumper people. It was so bad we couldn't stand it, so we went to the Dali Museum, which was an hour up on train. We figured nobody's going to be there. It's a little town. Figured he's Spain. Who's going to be there? Bumper to bumper people at the Dali Museum. I mean, the amount of American tourists that are overseas is just staggering. The hotel rates are up, the flights are up. It's a miserable time to go to Europe.
I have to ask a question, partially joking, partially not joking, but were they there because they were there to see Salvador Dali, or were there some folks that were confused and thought it was the Dali Park they were going to?
No, they were there to see Salvador Dali. One thing I must
maybe both.
Demand for people to go to these museums is extremely high, and it's just absolutely amazing. But hey, Jacoby did arrive, and I want to talk to him. There he is.
There's Jacoby.
Okay,
Jacoby, I was just talking about you because I was saying that the game yesterday was an amazing game. I was not at the game, but I was watching online. I saw we were down 5-0 going into the ninth inning, and then meaning the Durham Bulls, and then somehow they rallied, including a walk, bases loaded walk that got the rally going, and then they came back and won. You were out there, you were out there watching it, and the fireworks. What was the atmosphere like and all in that space? Because like just watching it and seeing it online, I was going they're about to lose. It's not fair on the 4th of July. And then of course they came back and rallied and won.
Someone's got to lose.
No, it was a good game. It was a really good game. It was an amazing comeback. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Amazing comeback by who? Did Durham Bulls win or did someone else win? The
Yep.
Bulls won, right?
Yep, the
Okay,
Bulls
well,
won
we know that was all staged. Okay, if the Bulls rallied, won, it was all staged, it's all theater, it's all conspiracy. We got that. Hey, but Jacoby, what you did say the other day is absolutely correct. And this is something we're going to bring up on David Walker's show because we're trying to promote fiscal responsibility. And here's something that the media just glosses over. Lee, you'll love this. Like, this just doesn't count. Okay? The USA lost $800 billion in PPP loans. That is an absolutely staggering amount of money. It's absolutely huge.
I'm sorry, Nick, what do you mean by lost?
What? Lost? Okay, well, the thing is,
what do you mean by lost?
Here's how they lost it, all right? Because now I got to go back to my office. I'm meeting him tonight to find out the status of our PPP loan, okay? Whether it's going to be forgiven. It's not a small loan. Lee, it's over.
No, I get that, but with loss implies they have no idea where the money went.
No,
This money went into bank accounts. They know where it went.
You can lose money just based on being incompetent. Okay, and so the SBA was in charge of managing these loans. They're called loans, right?
Okay.
And what happens is they turn into just mysteriously into grants, and then they're given away and they just disappear. Okay. Now, one thing, Lee, since you're a CPA, if somebody loses $1,000 to, I did.
Nick, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you for a second. I can lose cash. I forgot who I gave it to. Electronically, there's always a trail, is there not?
Yeah. There's always a trail, but here's the big but. The way that the PPP loans were, quote, administered is they allowed the business owners like moi to convert the loan into a grant almost at will. Okay, so when I say lost, now why is it that there's not, and this is what I'm going to Toby's point, this is an $800 billion loss. It's because all the major companies, including the media companies in the United States, my company in the United States, and others benefited from it. So when I benefit and I make $250,000 because the government's asleep at the wheel, I'm just going to be quiet for a minute. Not going to say a thing. Not going to say the fact that you guys all got screwed out of $250,000. You see what I mean? It's hush money.
No, I get that, Nick. So it's not really lost. It's they gave away. They turned them into grants, non-refund, they don't have to pay them back.
Incompetent. It's incompetence.
Incompetence, 100%, but by design.
We're not
by design.
We're not talking chopped liver here, buddy, in the Northeast.
It's almost $1 trillion.
No, that's a lot of money and everything.
Billion. We're not even talking 8 billion. We're not even talking 800 million. We're talking. This is the entire economy of Canada going down the toilet.
So
because of incompetency in Washington D.C.
Now, Nick, I wouldn't say incompetence because
I wouldn't either, Toby. I agree with you.
The thing is, again, how we argue all day over the poor and the lower income and all this getting money and taking money, and they're taking our money and not doing anything. Well, they don't have the same advantages a rich individual has that can actually hire a CPA to go through all the tax loopholes to make sure that their money is not taxed or is taxed at a lower rate. So those poor individuals or those middle-class individuals or even those small businesses that may have received a PPP loan that has to pay it back don't have that same lawyer base or CPA base that those rich companies do that receive that money. So it can't really be incompetence. They know where the money went. The problem is you can't get the money back because these big businesses have big time lawyers that make sure that $800 billion is still going to disappear. So again, it's not
okay.
We can't.
Okay. Let's say all that's true to Toby. Where is the media, the fourth estate? Why are they silent? Other than this, and I haven't checked into it, I got to do some investigative reporting, but I'm pretty sure I'll be accurate.
It's easy.
They are a beneficiary of the PPP loans, and they played the same game. And so CBS, ABC, NBC, and frankly, I should probably be quiet. If I find out tonight that I have a big windfall of $250,000, maybe I should just be quiet about this. You see what I mean? In other words, you basically got paid off.
Well, Nick, the easy answer is, and we've got to understand, it's the same thing, and this is why we were going back to the analogy with Ocean's Gate happening at the same time. Two ships were losing people, migrants, poor people. We don't care about that. We care about these people. We want to protect the rich. So it's easy to get mad, and the big thing, and this is why the GOP, again, the Republican Party is phenomenal at messaging. The Republican Party says that the media is liberal. It's not. Most major companies are owned by conservatives in terms of the media companies locally, going up and down the East Coast, going even West Coast. The media company itself with the largest viewer base is Fox News. That's not a liberal company. But yet the media, we sit here and listen to Fox and all these other companies that say, hey, it's the liberal media, the liberal media is so big and that's destroying us. Well, truthfully, no. It's your messaging that's telling everybody. So then now we're having to go back and forth over these, the argument, this really small argument, and we're missing the big picture that all these giant media companies are getting this money. So when we argue over we ignore the PPP loan because trickle-down economics is what we want.
It's not trickling down.
It's not. It's never going to trickle down.
You got to be
Trickle-down
out
economics
of
was
your
messaging.
mind, and the media is not doing their job, holding the government accountable for what I think is a staggering loss.
Nick, do you think the reason? Nick, do you think the reason why is because what Jacoby was saying, if I understood correctly, is because they would be pointing the blame on themselves because they took advantage of it.
Exactly, they took advantage of it. But again, those rich donors and everybody else, they don't want that out there. So you know what? We're going to blame these individuals. So I mean, and this goes on in our society on a regular basis. You can even look at the affirmative action ruling. People are blaming the whole affirmative action in the Black community. There's a thread that goes on that, and Mark, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this. When that came down, we said a lot of people in the African American community were talking about how, we ignore the legacy individuals and just blame the Black people, and it makes it okay. And that's what happened in the affirmative action case. We forgot that 40-some-odd% were of those individuals getting into the colleges that are blocking everybody out are legacy individuals. And those are predominantly white individuals. So the individuals that are benefiting from affirmative action going are who? The legacy individuals, the white donors and everything else. Because what? They have money. And we're not going to blame the legacy individuals. Why? Or the colleges aren't going to jump at the legacy individuals. Why? Because they can bring in money. So going back to
that is part of the narrative, but for those that are watching and asking what the heck is a legacy individual? A legacy individual is somebody who went to that college and then the offsprings are able to get into that college pretty much on scot-free because of the fact that their relatives got into the...
Mark, I'm confused. We're talking about legacy individuals. Isn't the whole issue there was too many Asians in these schools? And they were being left out. That's why there was a lawsuit.
Again, we're blaming, and this is where that comes from. So we're saying affirmative action was the problem, yet affirmative action did not account for but maybe a small percentage of those individuals getting into those colleges. But yet we ignored the majority, which are the legacy individuals, which are the ones who are predominantly white that can actually bring in money. Which brings me back to the point of when we argue about these things, it's that we never, and we complain about the media, it's because it's easy for the media to pinpoint a little boogeyman that we don't really care about, which ends up being somebody who is either minority, somebody who's poor or seen as somebody taking my money. And that's what happens with this PPP loan. It's never going to get covered by the media as big as it is compared, and we're never going to get mad at it because we're not going to get mad at Google for taking a PPP loan, but we'll get mad at my next door neighbor who might take out get free student loan recovery because there's just that disconnect that we have, and we're going to watch more media about the college loan because that's people I can relate to. I can't get mad at PPP because that's not going to sell in the media. So partially it's the media and partially it's our fault about what we get mad about.
I mean, will we cover the net zero emissions that is apparently being targeted for ocean shipping? I know we've got it going on in the U.S. with cars, but apparently they were targeting that for the entirety of ocean shipping, not just cruise ship. And they have recently moved that up to 2050 because they don't think that they can meet their original deadline. And apparently they're saying that shipping needs their power to solve its emission problems. But I don't know that we're going to see a lot of coverage of that either as well.
Yeah, but see, you can't equate the same things. I mean, I'm sorry, a legacy issue, of going to some elite university, so your butt smells better than somebody else's, cannot be equated to an $800 billion loss plus interest that everybody here on this panel is going to pay for the rest of their lives. Their children are going to pay for, and their grandchildren are going to pay for. This is
Nick. That's an interesting way to just. I've never heard it put that way. What a legacy is the way you describe it.
You know, I mean, I've been to those universities. I attended Oxford in England. I attended Harvard and Cambridge. And, you know, the thing is, the reality is there's nothing there to be excited about. The only thing excited about Oxford.
Wait a minute. You mean they don't? Wait a minute. You mean they don't have? Hold a second, Nick. They don't have bidets just flowing in the dorms, and that's why their butts smell better.
They don't have what? No. I mean, their dorms.
They don't have golden toilets.
But Nick, what I'm saying is the coverage of the legacy individuals is similar to the coverage of the PPP loan.
This is a lot of money. You're talking about a staggering. You're talking about, like I said, the entire economy almost of Canada being.
Oh yeah. No, I'm just talking about the coverage of it. What I'm saying is the coverage of the PPP loan. How the $800 billion is the elephant in the room, which we should be talking about,
right?
Rather than focusing heavily on the college tuition.
Right.
We should be more focused on the $800 billion in the PPP.
I mean,
it's a similar
I want $800 billion back.
Yeah.
The thing is, I think you're right. You're not going to get it back because the cat's out of the, the cat's in the hen house now.
But the coverage of it, again, is similar to the legacy stuff. How we will cover the small percentage of, minorities who get in on got into colleges on affirmative action, the very small percentage, but we won't cover the giant amount of people that are getting in on these legacy on the legacy setup. So it's the same thing. Those people that can donate and those rich individuals that are on the legacy setup won't get coverage. Those same rich people that got the $800 billion in the PPP loans won't get coverage. But those college student loans will be. Those minorities who got in on affirmative action will be. So you're talking about a small percentage that gets this giant amount of coverage, but this giant amount that's really the problem won't get any coverage because who benefits?
Yeah, there's actually a lawsuit going right now against the legacies. So we'll see how that goes through the court. The theory of the legacy is that the person who attends the university also donates to the university, and when you donate to the university, you should be given some sort of priority. That your kids will have more, interest.
Nick, I get letters all the time from Marquette. How many people actually make a donation to their university, and how much of that legacy donations are actually real? I know that there are a select few that do that and do some significant donations, even at Duke, where they're the Iron Dukes, and I forgot what it is at UNC and everything. But how many of that is the majority of the folks that go to these universities and get the benefit of that? I would say that it's probably not as many as they say it is.
Right. But see, the thing is, what people don't know, and maybe they shouldn't know, is like Jatov, if you want to go to Harvard, I can show you how you can backdoor into Harvard. And you can attend. You may not matriculate and graduate from there, but I can get you into Harvard. And I can also get Mark into Harvard. I can get Lee into Harvard. Okay. There are backdoor ways to do that. Okay. But even if you backdoor and you go in, I think you're going to be extremely disappointed in being.
Hold on a second.
I'm sorry, Nick.
Hold on a second. Isn't it easy? Hold on a second.
Be like, why did I do this?
No, hold on a second. Isn't it easy to get in now because just about everyone has one of those programs, including Harvard,
Mark,
including a number of the other ones, have online opportunities and everything. Because I know that I can get a course from Harvard that is online. It may not be an online degree from Harvard, but there are a number of those elite universities that have online abilities right now.
It's not about the whole I can get in, but I'm going to be disappointed idea.
Yeah.
And it's about, if a kid has the opportunity, and that's what affirmative action was giving that kid an opportunity. And now with that being gone, they're not even going to get that opportunity. So even if they enjoy the mundane and want to enjoy Harvard or Yale or one of these that we may feel is boring, but they see as exciting, won't even get that opportunity now because that's taken away. So it's not about that if we like it or if we would enjoy it for being there. It's about the opportunity that's not going to be there now, and that's the tough part.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, switching topics, and as I see Sasha's here, and I had alluded to it earlier and everything, but there is a meeting going on in this with the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Is actually being conducted by Prime Minister Modi, and apparently Putin and Xi are attending virtually and everything. And he has, meaning Putin, has says Russia is united as never before. So just wondering your thoughts about this meeting, whether this meeting should have taken place, and just in general, your thoughts about what is going on with the Shanghai Cooperation Organization meeting.
It's a pure propaganda, as it always was. And however, there is an imminent danger for United States, because the main purpose of this organization, their economies are not cooperating. They're just doing backdoor supplies to Russia that must be stopped long time ago, but it's still going on because some European companies, unfortunately, doing the same thing. Their goal is to replace US dollar as a reserve currency. This will lead to demise of United States and all Western world. This is a real war, because all the prosperity of United States is based on US dollar being reserve currency. If you will take that out, there will be nothing left of United States supremacy. So it must defend it every possible way. And the war in Ukraine is just one of the ways where US and the West can prevail and show who is the boss. This is a main thing that what everyone has to worry about.
Yeah, and see, Sasha, this goes back to my argument that when you just throw away $800 billion, you're losing your status in terms of becoming the world's reserve currency and maintaining that dominant position, because you're eroding your capital base, creating more debt to your balance sheet than you have assets. So it goes hand in hand. This $800 billion loss should not have been taken lightly by the press or by the American public, because right now, you're right, the United States dollar is the world reserve currency. When people have currency and they're going to put money into reserves in any country, their reserves go into the US dollar, keeping it really strong. Well, the minute it doesn't become the reserve currency and it's replaced by the yuan from China, then all of a sudden the dollar becomes a lot weaker. And we feel the ramifications in terms of our own purchasing power. So our financial incompetence, they lost $800 billion, is something that should be front and center by the press, and so should be what you're saying: the United States losing its, or other countries trying to supplant the United States, especially China.
Hey, Nick, along those same lines, and this was a conversation, and Jacoby will probably know what I'm talking about, that used to go on along a number of ethnicities, which is this whole concept of knowing your roots, knowing where you come from. And a lot of times we don't necessarily know where we are coming from. But one of the China's top diplomats actually recently urged Japan and South Korea to know their roots, because he is basically saying that no matter what they do, they can never become a Westerner. So that is something that is going on as well. So he is urging those that are more aligned to the West to kind of come back to their allegiance, because they are all fellow Asians, and that in that kind of space. So it's apparently he was pushing for a race-based alliance in the comments that he made. So what are our thoughts about this? Because it seems like they're trying to draw some of the, and we know that the Asian community, like the Latin American community and a number of other communities, are not monolithic, but it seems like this particular diplomat is trying to draw them into a monolithic allegiance.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Like I said, if you want to see, the great thing is to go onto Facebook, for those who haven't done it, and join the Understanding China group. If you want to understand how the Chinese, they say understanding China, but it has nothing to do with understanding China. It's how they perceive the United States. And frankly, they perceive us to be second-class world citizens. And the thing is, China needs to take its place to be the dominant, leader of the world. And that's the position. That's the position that they're taught when they're in elementary school. I don't know how many people here in the United States got taught that you're from the U.S. and we're the dominant power, and we're here to train you to maintain the dominancy over all other countries. How many of you got that class? Anybody here? Lee, did
No,
you
but
take that
Nick,
class?
if any of the five of us move to China, can we become Chinese citizens? Our Chinese or our children, our grandchildren?
Your children would become Chinese, maybe. I don't know. I'm just saying, as we sit right now today, okay, that everybody here, Mark, Jacoby, Lee, I don't know what they teach you in the Soviet Union, Sasha. Nobody here, to my knowledge, got taught that you're Americans. You're the leading country in the world, and we're going to maintain our leading dominant part of the world over all other countries. And the USA is the greatest country ever to exist, and get indoctrinated every day of your life until you die. Okay? China does that to their children. We don't do it to our kids. At least
We
I
used
have
to.
disagree. I have to
We used
disagree.
to, Nick.
What would you say, Jacoby?
I have to disagree.
You get indoctrinated?
American elitism is one of the things that we stand on. The whole world understands that we consider ourselves better than everybody else.
Better.
Okay, well, maybe we're teaching the kids the right thing.
Exceptionalist.
What did they teach you in the Soviet Union? You were there when Ukraine was part of that crazy Soviet Union. Were you taught that communism was the best and only, or the Soviet Union was the best and only ways, the West is bad, the East is good? What did they teach you over there in that crazy part of the world when you were there? Sasha?
Well, it depends. My school education was back in the 60s and 70s. At that time, it was quite a rosy picture painted that there is a great socialist republics and countries. They're doing extremely well. Unfortunately, they're surrounded by the capitalist countries which want to attack the Soviet Union and other socialist countries. So therefore, Soviet Union must have superiority in the weapons, armies, tanks, flights, and everything else. Oh, thank God. So nice. So in this case, the children were prepared to join so-called Komsomol, which was a junior part of the Communist Party. And from Komsomol, they would progress on to join Communist Party. So the Communist Party and Komsomol, it was a set of different doctrines which were never allowed to be discussed and challenged, and it was like it was even stricter than the religious doctrines. So this is how the Soviet Union people were formed in their youth and becoming our supporters.
Sasha,
Yes.
when you were in school, what did you learn about the Canadian style of government and Canadian people? Forget about the United States. Canadian. That the Canadians were corrupt, the gays had a better way of life, better way of government. What did you learn about them? Just Canada.
You're talking about when I was in the Soviet Union.
Yes.
In Soviet Union, Canada was never analyzed as the standalone country or system. It was always viewed as a part of the United States, although a separate country, independent country, whatever, but still it's largely doing everything whatever US is doing. There was never a separation between two of them. And even today, there is a still, it was founded in the Soviet Union in 70s as the Institute of USA and Canada. So you see, it has both countries covered, US and Canada, with very little separation. It's very little. If somebody, even one of the professors of this so-called institute, would be asked, what's exactly difference between US and Canada, it would be challenging for them to find the answer. They would talk maybe for 10, 15 minutes about something, but they themselves never viewed the difference between both countries.
Well, by the way, Janet Yellen is going to visit China and talk about education. I was actually going to give some figures because it just came out today from China. China released how many their education is, and they said they have 500 schools of all levels and sorts by 2022, with a total number of students reaching 293 million. That was according to their Ministry of Education. Whoa. And they're registered 18.8 million full-time teachers at all levels last year. And we talked about kindergarten yesterday. The total number of kindergartens dropped by 1.9% in China to 289,200 last year, according to their ministry. And there are 201,600 compulsory education schools nationwide with 159 million students.
Just want to say that every country believes, well, I don't even think that it's truthfully, well, not really an indoctrination. I think that's a different, every country has its individuals under or believe that they are a great country. I mean, that's that nation, that national pride. Every country has their own national pride, and every country believes that they have their own best thing. So when Nick had said earlier that we don't teach our kids this, we do. I mean, you can go to every rally right now, and if you say anything, if you go to a Trump rally right now and you say anything about the U.S., they're going to say, well, you can go to another country because we're the greatest country in the world. They got that from somewhere. They didn't get it from just making it up right then. We teach our people the same thing that many other countries teach their people about having national pride and believing in your country and being proud of your country. And that's what we do. And there's nothing wrong with that, I don't think. When it becomes degrading and starts abusing other countries, that's a different story. That is bad. But when we are talking about a national pride and having a belief in the country, I think, again, every country teaches their kids, teaches and every adult believes that same thing in that country. So you can't, it's hard to say that just because China is telling their kids to believe and have pride in China, that it's a bad thing that's what China's doing. It's what we're doing here. It's the same thing. We want our kids.
Toby, I agree with you on what you said, but with the caveat, there are those countries, dictatorships, like whether it's Cuba, where they're lying about the exceptionalism, the goodness of their country.
We lie about ours.
We have faults. We're not perfect.
Right now, we are literally. There's the half of our country, the Republican Party, is actually trying to whitewash history and saying that being woke and not even understanding what woke is, but trying to whitewash history because it makes them feel bad. So what
do they whitewash? Are they denying Jim Crow happened?
Yes, they are lying about what happened in terms of slavery. They're lying about what happened in terms of what happened in our recent history. So our country does a lot of lying as well. We lead the world in prison population. We don't tell the truth about the private prison system. So we lie about things as well. So we can't say that we don't lie too. So we do. It's just that every country has great parts. We are a beautiful nation. We have our great parts of this nation. But if we were completely, fully honest and not going to lie about particular things, again, we had just had a discussion about losing that $800 billion. Well, why did we, quote unquote, lose it? We didn't. Those rich individuals up top are getting that money.
Yeah, I don't get that. Why there's no accountability? I really don't understand that.
Again,
but Lee, isn't part of the problem? Hold on a second.
I was just going to let me say this one thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
We tell the way that we feed into our own media and the way that our media feeds into what we beg for. And we have been trained. For example, right now, the current Supreme Court is removing rights, literally removing rights. And
What rights?
Women's rights,
How
LGBTQIA
so?
rights.
How so?
They've also just removed it from.
I'm sorry, Toby. What rights are women losing?
Women's rights to make their own decisions about their medical treatments.
What? When did that happen? I must have missed that news flash.
When Roe versus Wade disappeared, women can no longer make the choice on their own about what they can do with their bodies.
Toby, I think there's a misunderstanding what the Supreme Court said.
That is not.
That is.
Nick, you want to back me up on this one?
That is not.
Yeah. What happened was they deferred to the states' laws regarding abortion.
So,
Thank you.
Are your rights deferred to the states?
Pardon?
As a man, what rights sexually are deferred to the states?
Okay, what the Supreme Court did, and this is what you're getting is the liberal indoctrination.
No, I'm not. What you're about to say is that
Toby, just listen for a second. I want to hear what Nick has to say.
Yeah.
Well, go for it, Nick.
What their decision said in overturning Roe is that it was not the purview of the court. It was up to the individual states to pass laws relating to abortion. And so basically, they elected to get out of the abortion issues. They're out. Okay? So now it's up to the states. Now, that's what happened. And the states could have gone the other way. They could say, abortion for all at any time, where the states could go.
So again,
abortion.
Nick,
hold on.
Disagree.
But it's not like they did.
Why? Okay, you take a state. Okay, it doesn't matter, Illinois or Alabama or semi-conference. Okay, here is a state. There's a governor. There's politicians and so on. And one day, for example, today they made a decision: no abortion in this state, no whatsoever. Okay, so that means that inside the states, women cannot make an abortion.
But they can go to the next state where there's abortion on demand.
That's
Right. Okay, so this is already attack on their rights. So they have to now travel somewhere else. They cannot do it in their place where they live. Hold on, but that's not enough. Let's see there is election in the same state, and in 2 years, the governor lost his position, all the position, now completely different government in that state. Now they say, oh, no, do abortions right here, now it's permitted, do as many as you want. So another 2, say 4 years, okay, there is another election, that slate of politicians lost, the new one comes in and say, no abortion from now on in the state, go elsewhere, so on.
Yeah.
What kind of life is that?
To make it even easier.
It is what
Nick,
it is.
Here's a
It's
question.
called democracy. Hey, Toby, Sasha, I don't know if you guys have heard of Toby. Have you heard of democracy? Probably have.
Nick,
Democracy.
Not in case of women, not in case of women.
Was abortion a
And then this
federal
liberal
right?
What we
and all of
want.
a sudden, it's the Supreme Court's fault.
No,
Liberal
listen,
death.
Nick.
It's not. It has
Was
no
it a federal right?
whatsoever.
It was a right across the whole nation, correct? It was a federal right. Women had that federal right, correct?
What
No.
federal right?
According to Roe versus Wade, every
US
state has to abide by the same rule, correct?
Toby, did the U.S. Congress ever pass a law allowing abortion? Talk to me.
According to Roe versus Wade, correct?
Which was overturned.
According to Roe versus Wade, they could go.
No, Nick, Toby, answer the question though.
Yeah.
Lee, I'm trying to get there. Let me finish.
Answer Nick's question.
I'm trying to get there.
He's
Can I
working on
finish?
it.
Can I finish?
Go ahead.
You ready? Thank
Go
you.
ahead, buddy.
So according to Roe versus Wade, it was a national standard across every state, correct? If that was correct, that according to Roe versus Wade, it's a national standard. It's basically a federal right across every state. When you take that away, that means you're taking away that federal right, and now it's up to the state, correct?
or the federal government.
You said or, so you agreed.
Yeah, the federal government. But see, the
So
problem.
they just. So then we're back to my point. We just took away rights.
No, friend. Okay, what
You
they
just
what
said
they
that it was
did.
a federal right.
No. You're pulling in the liberal view of what the Supreme
Nick, you
Court
just
did
said it was a federal
by
right.
returning the the democracy process back to the states or the federal government.
Again,
And listen, that's what they call democracy. I don't know why you have a thing against democracy.
so
Why do you
women's
want to be ruled
rights,
by the Supreme Court?
women's rights are up for votes.
Yeah. It's called
Again,
democracy.
just what I stated.
Hey,
You're arguing for my argument.
I mean, democracy's hard, isn't it?
So
called
they just
democracy.
literally took rights away from women. Why are we in
No,
this
no, they
argument?
didn't. They said they should have they should have never been playing this game again.
Nick,
Hey,
The game is a
hold on a
the game is
second, Nick,
portion
along
of
those-
the legislative
hold on a second,
process
Nick.
that
Along those
put
same
out
lines,
to the
there
states.
is a known fact.
Federal government could
Hold on a second. There is a known fact that women's pay is across the board less than men's pay, and that is a major issue. Should if the Supreme Court takes that up,
Mark, I don't think data supports that.
Lee, that's a fact. It's actually
That's
data.
I don't
We
think
got-
the data supports that.
No,
For
it's
the
a
same
fact.
experience, same training, same number of years,
Nope,
same
nope,
position.
nope,
I don't
Lee,
think it
we
supports
got-
it. You're
we got
mixing
data.
doctors with
data.
education.
Lee, we
It doesn't
got
support it.
Lee, we have the data. It's well documented. It goes the same thing for minorities.
I don't believe so.
It is. We have
I don't
the
believe so.
scientific
I think
data.
you're
It's
mixing
data.
everybody into a basket
Nope,
when there's
nope,
educated
nope,
teachers
Lee,
with doctors.
Lee, just as Nick wanted to claim that I'm talking about a liberal data, you're pulling conservative data right there. It is true.
No, it's data.
It is true. It is a fact. I'll send you all the data on there.
The abortion issue isn't liberal or conservative. It's based on democratic process versus an authoritarian Supreme Court. The liberals keep saying, "Oh, we want an authoritarian Supreme Court," and then the Supreme Court goes, "Great, we don't have anything to do with abortion."
Jacoby,
No, you need to tell us what to do. Come on,
And
don't be
instead of a man.
it's a precedent that was there, Nick. Again, it's a precedent that was there across the nation for for more than 50 years.
By right.
Hold
What
on,
does it
Nick.
mean?
Listen, it was a precedent across the board, across the nation for more than 50 years. It was a precedent across the board. You take that away, it's no longer a precedent. Therefore, then you're saying, well, states can do it. And then now that means you're taking away rights and putting them in the hands of voters. Yes, you're literally taking away rights. You're saying that it's the same thing as if, okay, you can shop at this major store, you can shop at Walmart, right? You can shop at Walmart all you want. But then Walmart tells you, hey, you can't shop here. You can only shop outside. Well, that means I can't shop at a store. You've taken away my right, my ability to shop at your store. I can only shop right here. Oh, well, no, not really. You can still shop at a store. It's just out here, this gift shop. You're taking away something. That's literally what happened.
Jacoby, do you agree that the Supreme Court sometimes, first of all, makes mistakes? They have before. We can give you
Lee,
examples.
It's not a mistake. Lee, it was a 50-year precedent. I know where you're going with this analogy.
What?
That's all wrong. And then on top of that, getting back to you, we want to go to the money. I mean, you're literally taking away
rights.
And then the argument to say, well, you can just move to another state. You don't have individuals that have that kind of money. That's a privileged idea. You have people living in Section 8. They can't just up and move to the Section 8 from Florida to South Carolina or from South Carolina to New York. It doesn't work that way.
In democracy, you get to go to the voting booth and vote on this issue. You get to live in the state that you agree with this. Look,
and you had a
if there's
federal
people like Sasha,
Jacoby,
federal mandate that
you're
allowed.
not going to be doing poker.
You had a
in North
universal
Carolina
federal mandate.
unless you
Jacoby, what does precedent of 50 years have to do with anything? I don't get that. Because if that's your argument, the machine guns automatically should be legal now because for hundreds of years we've had them. That was the precedent. President.
let's do this then. Let's do this
Hold
then.
on, hold on
Here,
a second
here,
before you
quick
go
question,
there,
Mark.
Toby.
Mark,
Hold on a
before
second
you get
before
there.
you go. There was a precedent about the civil rights and civil rights laws and everything. So if you're saying the president doesn't matter, then that means that could totally disappear and all in that space because that was a precedent. That was a 50-year precedent or something along those lines.
Exactly. So
If
now
it's
you're
not a
saying-
legislative action, everything's up for grabs based on what is the right thing to do at the
Lee,
moment, regardless of
Lee.
what we did before. Slavery
Here.
was wrong, even though we did it for hundreds of years. It was wrong. We
Lee.
shouldn't say we've done it, so let's just continue. Go on. The
Here's
floor
the
is
thing.
yours.
You're saying it's wrong, but it's wrong from today's point of view.
Well,
But
even
150 years ago, it wasn't wrong. It was a norm. It was.
That's exactly my point, Sasha.
Lee, here's a question. Here's a question for you. Do you believe women are intelligent enough to make their own medical decisions?
No. Because if you're telling me they are, then you've got abortion up to birth.
Never mind.
No.
Never mind. We're done. We're done. You think women aren't smart enough to make their, make their own
I
medical
think
decisions?
women
You're
and
in favor
men
of abortion on
are
demand?
intelligent enough
To
to make
Toby?
their own medical decisions.
Full term?
Either one.
Have I
They're-
said anything about abortion?
Either
I
one.
just said medical decision.
It's a medical
I don't
decision.
think
It's
women
by the
or
board.
men are intelligent enough to make their own medical decisions. That's
Thank you,
reasonable.
Nick. I agree with that.
But I mean, isn't part of the problem, and we kind of alluded to it.
I mean-
there are 4 institutions. Aren't all 4 institutions having problems and everything? Because I
To
think
take-
they all need to get
Let me-
fixed. Whether it's the legislature, whether it's the executive, whether it's the judicial, or whether it's the 4th estate. So I think all 4 of them need some help in this particular day and time.
And Lee, just to touch on the abortion portion,
Sure.
Nobody is asking for abortion on demand or doing it all.
That's not true. You're saying nobody?
Lee, let's not play the semantic game.
I'm repeating your words.
Lee, we're not playing the semantic game. We're not doing that. So again, no one is sitting there legitimately, hey, let me go out here and have sex and go have an abortion because I'm cool with that. That's what I want to do.
Why not?
The thing is, Lee, this gets back to the question. You're saying women aren't smart enough to make that medical decision. I'd say women can control their own bodies. They are smart enough to make their own medical decision.
Toby,
Because
if they were smart enough to control their own bodies, this would not be an issue.
Who's sitting right
No,
beside
my
you?
daughter is. And you know what?
So
My
you're saying
daughter's
your daughter's
driving.
not smart?
Yeah, my daughter's very smart, which is
No,
why
you're not.
she's
You
doing
said
the
she's
driving and
smart
not
enough to
me.
make her own decision.
You know, and Mark, you would appreciate this. I'm actually on the.
You said
We're
your
actually on
daughter's not
81
smart enough
South
to make her
now,
own decision.
outside Charlotte, North Carolina, on the way to Georgia.
Make sure you're watching and telling her where to go because you said that she's not smart
She
enough.
got Waze. We got Waze on.
Okay. Was she the one who put it on? Because I mean, you said she's not smart enough. Just saying. That's your point.
To Toby, we're not going to Georgia to get an abortion. Okay, I'll just let you know that.
Nobody is asking for abortion on demand. The thing
That's
is,
not true.
It is true.
No, that's not true,
Nobody
Toby.
is asking.
They want the right. Some people want the right for abortion on demand.
People want the right to make their own medical decisions. Women,
which would include abortion on demand, would it not?
The thing is, a woman right now in, say, California may be getting an abortion. Does that have an effect on you?
Yes, it has.
How?
It has a great effect. Well, because
Yes, it does. It does. Thank you, Sasha. It does.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Before you even answer, Sasha,
does. It's a good question, Toby, but it does.
No.
Yes, it
Hold
does.
on. Lee, Sasha, you didn't even know. So how does it have an effect?
Well, as I told you,
Well.
I'm surprised you're missing the most important part of the issue. The decision about abortion and all this discussion about abortion, it's a religious issue. Nothing more and nothing less. Forget about the stupid Supreme Court of yours. Forget about all other states versus federal. It's a religious issues. And
get
the
that.
religions, the factory, they are on a guard to make women, no abortion. Go and have a child. You can kill the child later on after it's born, but not before. Go. We don't care. Just do it. And so this is the religious issue.
And the funny thing is, again, Lee, it has no effect on you. You don't even know if
It
somebody
really
has
does.
an abortion. you don't know if somebody has an abortion right at this current moment.
Chitobi?
You don't
Chitobi?
know.
Let's say I agree with you, okay? So
Okay.
then you're okay that abortion on demand because it has no effect on you.
I'm okay with a woman making her own medical decision without my input.
So if a woman wants to use that as a form of birth control, you're okay with that?
Absolutely. What's wrong?
It's not my.
Okay, fine.
It's her choice. It's not mine.
Fine. And then one follow-up then, okay? So you're a woman says, you know what? Tomorrow's my due date. Or today's my due date, but you know what? I changed my mind. Get rid of it. Kill it. You're okay with that?
I'm okay.
It's her
my
choice.
Child. It's not my child. It's not my choice. It's a medical decision between her and her doctor. What's safe for her?
So it's a medical decision. Society should have no say on that.
Not at all.
Nope.
It's not society. It's her and her doctor. Two people. Forget about society.
So how about the father? Does the father have a say?
That's between her family. That's not between me.
No. Does a man who got her pregnant have a say in whether there should be or should not be an abortion?
Again, that's between them. That is not between me. You're asking all this extra stuff to try and pinpoint it to make me say yes.
No, I'm saying the woman wants the abortion, Jacoby. She wants to get rid of it. The man says no. It's my baby too.
It's her body. It's not that man's
So you're saying the man has no say in it?
Here, Lee, let's try this then. Let's try this.
No, I'm asking you. So the man has no say, Jacoby, right? It's up to her.
That's her
the man's out of the picture now, right?
That is her relationship. She gets final
Fine.
say.
So the man can say, I want you to have an abortion. She can say, I don't want you to have an abortion. She say, I'm having an abortion. You're out of the picture.
So maybe they would be.
So the man is he free financially now?
Maybe they
I don't want the baby. I don't want any responsibilities.
Lee, again,
don't come for me for financial support.
You're making these you're making these crazy anecdotes. The thing is, she gets final say.
No, these are realistic things.
Again, I'm telling you the truth. She gets
fine.
Final say.
She gets final say, but we're going to hold the man responsible for what she says now.
The man was a part of the whole issue.
She's choosing to have the baby. He wants to move on with his life. It was a one-nighter. He doesn't want to.
Okay, so
Hunter Biden.
I think where he's going is the whole notion, and that can be a whole another debate as to whether the man should be held responsible for child support if he did not bring the
100%, Mark. That's it.
So well, if she has the baby, then yes, he has to be a part of that child support.
Even though he wanted an abortion.
Yep.
Lee, may I ask you one question? I'm trying to guess. You're going
to
Georgia.
Yes, answer you one.
Lee.
We're outside Charlotte now.
Okay. I'm trying to guess, Lee. Are you going to Georgia to witness another Trump's indictment?
No, since you asked, I'm sure all you care. So I'll just share with you. Unfortunately, it's not a pleasure trip. My mom's in the hospital.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Sorry.
No, sorry about that.
Thank you.
Okay. I would like to remind everybody
that
today is very important financial show on TV. And I urge anyone who has time to attend that show and also listen to the previous show a week ago. I'm pretty sure you'll find it, first of all, entertaining, second of all, very enlightening, and I'm pretty sure you can learn a thing or two to help you financially. I honestly do believe so.
So I think you're right, absolutely right in everything, and we're actually going to wrap up this show and everything. I was going to make one other quick crack about Donald Trump and everything, because apparently Donald Trump Jr. is postponed his trip to Australia because of some things that are going on in terms of unforeseen circumstances or something along those lines. And I'm wondering, since we haven't seen him in a while, if Shaquille might be those unforeseen circumstances. When he comes back, we'll have to ask him whether he was the unforeseen circumstances, since Donald Trump Jr. is his Australian trip off on hold.
Here's a conspiracy.
Exactly. So on that note, we better get on out of here. And at 1 o'clock, we will have this show with Sasha and his guests, including a new regular panelist. I think that's the one that he is alluding to that will be on the show along with Milan and Jim E. I forgot the other gentleman's name, but I know he has definitely been involved in the
Michael Blair.
Michael Blair. Thank you. Appreciate you. So we'll see all four of them at 1 o'clock. But right now we're going to get on out of here. There might be other programming coming up, but at 1 o'clock we will have the Modern Investment Show, and Michael Blair, Sasha, Milan, and Jim Eve will have all kinds of great conversation at that point. And he is absolutely correct. You do learn a lot. So be sure to check it out. And on that note, we're going to get on out of here.
Y'all have a good day. Be well.
Easy. Be safe, Lee.
Yeah, be safe.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank
And
you.
our thoughts will be with your mom and everything. Sorry that she's going
Mark,
through.
that's very sweet. Thank you very much.
Likewise.